Welcome to Rise Untold, where the stories behind the spotlight come alive. For 2,000 years, one name has lived in mystery: Mary Magdalene. She was there in the most dramatic moments of history. She walked beside Jesus of Nazareth. She watched his crucifixion. And according to the Bible, she was the first to see him alive again. Yet the world has always wondered, what did she really look like? Paintings gave us one answer. Legends gave us another. But now, with history, archaeology, and science, experts have come closer than ever to revealing her true face. And it may surprise you. For centuries, Mary Magdalene's image was shaped not by evidence, but by imagination. Medieval artists painted her with flowing golden hair, pale skin, and European features. She was sometimes shown as a saint in glowing robes, other times as a sinner in need of redemption. Her image was whatever the culture wanted it to be. But none of those portraits were based on reality. They were reflections of the artists themselves, not of the woman who lived in Galilee 2,000 years ago. So what happens when we set aside the art and turn to the evidence? Experts start with geography. Mary was from Magdala, a fishing town, on the western shore of the Sea of Galilee in what is now northern Israel. The people of that region in the first century were Middle Eastern Jews. That means she would have looked nothing like the pale European versions we often see. Instead, experts agree. Her skin would have been olive-toned, her hair dark, her eyes brown. She was a woman of her land and her people. Anthropologists studied ancient Jewish skulls from the same region and era. Their reconstructions show faces, with strong cheekbones, dark eyes, and features built for life in the sun and dust of Galilee. These were sturdy faces, not fragile ones. This is the world Mary Magdalene belonged to. In recent years, forensic experts have used advanced techniques to reconstruct what women of her time looked like. By analyzing skulls, studying bone structures, and applying modern 3D technology, they can create an accurate picture of the average woman in first-century Galilee. The result is far from the delicate, soft-faced portraits of art. The reconstructions show sturdy faces, broad noses, darker complexions, and thick, dark hair. These women were built for survival in a harsh world, and Mary, experts believe, would have looked the same. Appearance isn't just about the face, it's also about clothing. Historians point out that women in her time wore long robes made of wool or linen, often in natural colors like brown, gray, or cream. Bright dyes were expensive, so ordinary women rarely wore them. Head coverings were common, especially for Jewish women. Mary would likely have worn a simple veil or shawl, covering her hair. Forget the glamorous dresses in Renaissance paintings. The real Mary Magdalene dressed modestly, like any ordinary woman of her village. So why did history distort her image? Experts say it's because Mary Magdalene became a symbol. Some saw her as a saint of devotion, others misrepresented her as a sinner. Over centuries, her face was reshaped again and again, not to show who she really was, but to tell stories that others wanted to tell. But archaeology reminds us, beneath the legends, she was real. Flesh and blood. A woman whose face looked like the people of her world. Still, experts agree. The fascination with her image is not really about beauty. It's about what she represents. She stood by Jesus when many others fled. She was there at the crucifixion, watching the unthinkable. And according to the Gospels, she was the first to witness the resurrection. That makes her one of the most important witnesses in Christian history. And maybe that's why people still search for her face, because seeing her more clearly brings us closer to a story that changed the world. So let's put the pieces together. Archaeologists describe olive-toned skin, Middle Eastern features. Anthropologists show strong cheekbones, brown eyes, dark hair, Forensic reconstructions suggest sturdy, practical features built for the rough conditions of Galilee. Historians explain her clothing, simple robes, modest veils, nothing ornate. In short, Mary Magdalene would have looked like the ordinary women of her time and place. And yet, her story made her extraordinary. Perhaps the greatest truth experts reveal is this: Mary Magdalene's real power was never in how she looked, it was in what she witnessed. For centuries, artists gave her golden hair and flawless beauty, but the true Mary did not need those things. Her strength was loyalty, her gift was courage, and her legacy was faith. So, what did Mary Magdalene really look like? For centuries, her image has shifted, painted and repainted to suit the imaginations of artists and storytellers. In European art, she often appeared as a pale-skinned woman with flowing golden hair, a vision of beauty shaped more by Renaissance ideals than by evidence. In medieval stories, she was sometimes portrayed as a sinner, in others a saint. But in all these versions, one thing remained the same. She never looked like a woman from the dusty fishing towns of Galilee, where she was truly from. Experts today tell us something very different. According to archaeologists, anthropologists, and forensic specialists, Mary Magdalene would have resembled the women of ancient Galilee. She would not have had the delicate features or pale skin of Western paintings, but instead the strong, weathered look of a woman who lived under the harsh sun, worked hard, and endured the struggles of daily survival. She would have been strong, olive-skinned and brown-eyed. Her hair would have been dark, not golden. Her features shaped not by myth but by the land she called home. Anthropologists who studied ancient Jewish skulls from the same region and century give us more details. Their reconstructions show broad cheekbones, sturdy noses, and faces built for endurance. These women weren't fragile figures. They were resilient, carrying water, working in fields, raising families, and navigating a world marked by Roman occupation and constant hardship. Mary would have been one of them, a woman of flesh and blood, not of legend. Clothing adds another layer to this reconstruction. Historians explain that women in first-century Galilee dressed simply. They wore robes of wool or linen, often in natural shades of cream, brown, or gray. Bright colors were rare, reserved for the wealthy. Most ordinary women like Mary would have worn modest garments and covered their hair with a simple veil. No crowns, no jewels, no elaborate designs. Just the humble dress of an ordinary woman who walked the dusty roads of Palestine. Forensic science has also stepped in. Using 3D modeling on skulls from that period, experts have created visual reconstructions of how people of Galilee might have looked. The results stand in sharp contrast to centuries of art. These reconstructions reveal faces with olive skin, coarse dark hair, and features hardened by labor and the elements. In other words, Mary Magdalene looked far more like the people of the Middle East today than the iconic European paintings suggest. But here's the deeper truth. Experts agree that Mary's legacy was never about her appearance. The fascination with her face is really a fascination with her story. She stood by Jesus of Nazareth when others abandoned him. She was there during the crucifixion, witnessing what few dared to watch. And, according to the Gospels, she was the first to see him alive again. That makes her not just a follower, but one of the most important witnesses in history. Her courage was her true image. Still, the search for her face tells us something powerful about human nature. We long to put a face to the names that shaped history. We want to know what they looked like, to feel that they were real. And Mary Magdalene was very real, not an icon in a painting, not a myth recited in a story, but a woman who lived, breathed, and walked the same earth we walk today. So, what did Mary Magdalene really look like? Experts say, like the women of ancient Galilee. Strong, olive-skinned, brown-eyed, a face shaped by sun, wind, and survival. Not polished, not painted, but real. And perhaps that's what makes her unforgettable, because the deeper answer is this: she looked human, just like us, and maybe that's the point. That her legacy was never about flawless beauty, but about resilience. The power of her story was never in the softness of her features, but in the strength of her spirit. If she could carry her truth through history, through the storms of misunderstanding, through centuries of distortion, through endless reinvention, and still inspire the world 2,000 years later, then maybe you too can find strength in your own story. Because the face of Mary Magdalene was never just about beauty. It was about survival. It was about devotion. It was about the courage to stand in the darkest hour, to witness, to believe, and to hold on to hope. That is what experts remind us today. That behind every myth, there is a woman. Behind every legend, there is a life. And behind the name Mary Magdalene, there is not just a symbol, but a human being. Real, resilient, unforgettable. Disclaimer: this video is based on expert historical, archaeological, and forensic research. It is not intended to replace or challenge any religious belief, but to present the findings of modern scholarship.